Having spent a fair amount of time at the beginning going in lunar and solar circles, I'm going to compact what I was planning on saying this evening, and distill it down to the following. Zionism, of which much has been made in recent days, is both a relatively ancient and a relatively modern construct. It's ancient in the sense that the sense of connection to the land has been part of the fabric of Jewish life for pretty much as long as there has been Jewish life. Go back to the book of Genesis, and God says to Abraham, pick yourself up, go, and I'll let you know when you get there. And the there is the land of Israel. And we read about our ancestors' experiences in the land, their return to the land during the time of Joshua, and so on and so forth. So the idea of being both physically, politically, nationally there is quite ancient. But for a very long period of time, it exists in a more religious orientation. And if you were to sort of leaf through the pages of the prayer book, you would see how the sense of longing for connection to Israel is palpable and powerful. In the 19th century, that begins to morph into a more active political Zionist model. We often associate that with Theodor Herzl, but the reality is that the elements that he sort of helps coalesce are already on the stove cooking, if you will. You have writers that predate Herzl who are talking about the need to go to the land, to build the land, and it's emanating from a variety of different places. It's coming from very left socialist voices on the one hand. It's coming from the more mainstream pragmatists in the Jewish community, and it's even coming from some of the religious communities where you have people like Rabbi Samuel Mohilever, who is saying, yes, I know that we talk about the Messianic era and waiting for the Messiah to come, but in the meantime, we should do something. So you have this confluence of voices, and it's all percolating within the process of nationalism that is happening in a whole host of countries in Europe. It's the moment when Germany becomes Germany, when Italy becomes Italy. So the nationalist model is sort of out there, and the Jewish writer Hess, in his seminal work, writes, it's called Rome and Jerusalem. Why? Because Italy had not yet coalesced to become, and Jerusalem was this other known capital, which also did not yet have a nation state, if you will. And so this is what he talks about. And it's like, it's good for them, it's good for them, it's good for them. Rome needs it, we need it, done. Okay, the book's a little better than that. So this version of Zionism is all about achieving statehood. It's what Herzl catalyzes into the series of Zionist congresses that begin to lobby the Turkish government and then the British government and really push for the creation of a Jewish state. That's sort of Zionism 1.0, if you will, or political Zionism 1.0. And it culminates ultimately in the creation of a Jewish state in 1948. Actual Jewish history is a little more complicated. Roll with me on this one. From 1948 onward, we enter what I would call Zionism 2.0. The state exists, but now it's about building it. Building the infrastructure, building the population, building the community, transforming it into a truly viable place. It also becomes, during the early part of Zionism 2.0, this tremendous source of Jewish pride and identity. And for a very long period of time, especially after 1967, I don't want to say the cure-all, but one of the phenomena of Jewish life was we send our teenagers to Israel to help cement a sense of Jewish identity and a sense of connection to the land of Israel. You can't quite point to a neat moment when Zionism 2.0 ends. Does it end when Israel is no longer quite so dependent on world Jewry? So much so that you have voices in Israel who are going like, we are the largest single Jewish community in the world. Maybe you should get the heck out of Brooklyn and Newport News and move to Israel. That's where Jews belong. Is it that moment? Is it the moment when the critique of Israel became more open and acceptable? When before you don't criticize Israel because Israel's being created. But now Israel's strong enough, mature enough to take the criticism. For some, they started talking about the post-Zionist era. Zionism was about creating the state. Zionism was about building the state. Ganuk, we don't need Zionism no more. It was about those first two things. But I'd like to suggest that we really do need a Zionism 3.0. What does Zionism 3.0 look like? I'm drawing from something that Devorah Tolushkin wrote in the memoir she writes of Isaac Bashevis Singer, entitled Master of Dreams. She quotes Bashevis Singer as saying, what the Jews need is not only a memory of their past, but also a memory of their future. Fascinating statement, and I want to unpack it a little bit. I think what he was suggesting was that we need to envision a time down the road, an Israel post-Tsuris almost, post-conflict, and think about how we got there. So imagine a memory of the future. You are visiting Israel, and you have the day off from your tour group, and you're sitting on a bench waiting for the bus to take you to the museum. A young man with a bit of a limp sits down beside you, and you start talking, because that's what you do. Well, it's what I do on a bus bench in Jerusalem. Who are you? Who are you? Where are you from? Blah, 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 blah. And you sort of start sharing a little bit of history. And where are you from? Okay, I'm from this synagogue. And, oh, yeah, that's funny you should say that, because after I was injured during the tremendous period of upheaval and turmoil, that traumatic moment that for us is still raw and real, that moment when we thought peace was never going to happen, I was recuperating. It was Dafka, people from your community that were sending monies that were helping support the people who are helping me heal. So even though I never knew any of you, I always knew about you. You were the community that supported us. I apologize, but for me, when I say this, I don't really think about here. I think about my previous community, which was tied to the Eshkol region. This could be real. This could be real. The future memory is one that two strangers who have a chance meeting can connect about. For us now, the task is, how do we build that future memory? It is, I believe, by making sure that our Israeli brothers and sisters know that we are invested completely and fully, that we're not just focused on our tsuris and our reality here, but we're focused on them and their need as well. They have to know that they are not alone. We have to know that we are not alone. That is the future memory that we want to have. The one that we can build by our actions towards each other and with each other. Okay, Chaverim, let me